It is only getting worse up until it gets better. Now, I'm up here in Connecticut visiting some friends that I've had forever and get to experience and participate in the graduation of one of my friends' daughters. And so I can't help but notice as I walk around the neighborhood how incredibly nice this area is, but I'm also not confused. This is a very wealthy area. And so the folks that live here are probably not experiencing the same financial distress that other folks are. And let's keep in mind that this area is where Ray Dalio lives. This is where Bridgewater Associates is based. And there's a ton of institutional money that lives right here. We're talking about the big time players, the deep pockets, the insiders, the movers and shakers that dictate lots of things that happen within the economy, within the financial markets, and even within the housing markets. And it's summertime, it's graduation season. I'm walking in front of Fairfield Prep, and this is a really nice community. And while I can certainly do a deep data dive into all the things that are happening right now in my housing market, or really any other market that exists within the country, I feel like I'd be completely irresponsible if I didn't share what's happening right now in today's market with my clients. People just like you who find me on YouTube and hire me to help them find their dream home and dream lifestyle. Because for them, it's only getting worse. And let me be totally transparent as to what that means and give you a little bit of frame of reference, because without it, you don't know what I'm talking about. Although it seems like it was forever ago, it wasn't that long ago. We're only talking about a couple of years or less where interest rates, mortgage interest rates, were at 2 and 3%. And the demand to buy a home was through the roof. Every single home that we went to show for one of our clients inevitably had 30, 40, 50 contracts, and buyers were aggressively competing to get the home they wanted under contract. So it was not uncommon for buyers to go out there, waive contingencies, waive inspections, waive appraisals, reduce the contract timeline, and pay significantly more than whatever the ask price was, and pay significantly more than whatever the next buyer was willing to do. And because of that, we got insane valuations on many different properties that probably shouldn't have traded that way. And whether that was fair or not is irrelevant, because the market doesn't care about fair. The market is always right. And what I personally think about the market and what you personally think about the market is completely irrelevant, because the market is always right. And the housing market will always trade. It's always a good market for someone, which takes me to what happened this week, which you must understand if you're thinking about buying a home, especially in Boca Raton. Someone just like you reached out and they are in a bind. They are in a pinch. They are feeling distress because they're in a rental and their lease is about to expire, and they're going to have to renew at a much higher rental rate. And they don't want to do that. And this particular shopper has been hunting for a home. He has been searching high and low. He knows every single property within the market that he's shopping. Not only does he know every single home that is on the market, he knows the history of every single sale that's happened in that subdivision. And there are plenty of times that I work with clients that don't have a clue about what's happening in that particular market. This particular gentleman knows more about the market than 99.9% of the agents that service it, but not more than me. So when we found the home that he wanted to go see, that just hit the market, I knew for certain there was going to be a tremendous amount of competition. And although we had looked at other homes previously, this one was perfect. It checked all the boxes. And I knew it was priced to sell. And I knew it was actually underpriced, which is exactly what you want to do if you're thinking about selling your home. You want to create a situation where you get multiple offers that bid the price higher. And although the agent that was listing the home is relatively new, they did it the right way. And so they had an open house. And at the open house, It was very clear to anybody paying attention that there was going to be multiple contracts. And so I needed to be the first person to present one. And while I've done a whole lot of content talking about what I expect to see in the future, and I know I'm right, I know these things will happen at some point. The truth is, if I let those things stand in the way of what we must do today in order to solve his rental problem, then I know for certain he's not getting this house. He's not getting this interest rate. And chances are in the future, he's probably going to be paying more for a house and a mortgage interest rate. So, despite all of the things that could and likely will happen at some point in the future, he, my client, who hired me to represent him, knows the risks inherent. And he also knows the current market that we're in right now. And after a fully transparent deep dive into what the best case and worst case scenarios might be, he wants to buy a house. He wants to solve his rental problem because his rent has skyrocketed. And that's not getting any better anytime soon, at least in my market. So we got into action. We got into rapport with the agent. And this is where things get a little bit dicey. This is where things start to get a little bit questionable. And to be clear, I'm not accusing anybody of anything at this point, but I definitely have my suspicions as to what happened next because I've seen this movie before and I know how it ends. We did everything correctly. We got into rapport and I communicated with the other real estate professional. To her credit, she answered the phone. She didn't hide behind text. She didn't hide behind emails. She was highly communicative. And I was able to let her know that I have her buyer and he is fully approved and he is fully prepared to do whatever it takes to buy this home. But our goal was to get this home under contract because there are going to be lots of other contracts that they receive. So I know we're not going to start the negotiation process up front on this particular property because the competition is through the roof. And if we came in with anything other than a over ask contract, there was 0% chance of us even getting considered. And the terms on the offer were insanely competitive. And so I knew that the ace in my pocket that I didn't want to play yet is the fact that I know that the buyer is capable of doing significantly more than what we wrote up. But I didn't want to give that away up front. Instead, I was able to communicate that to the agent because the agent was highly communicative and she was fired up. She was all in. She verbally agreed that she understood exactly what was happening and had met the buyer. She liked him. She knows me. She wants to do a deal, or at least that's what I thought, because that's the message that she communicated. And I've worked with lots of agents over the years, and not all of them are highly communicative. Lots of them have massive egos, and lots of them don't want to do a deal unless it's their deal. But I didn't pick up on any of those vibes because she wasn't presenting any of them. She was excited. She understood, and we demonstrated through contracts and paperwork that this is her buyer. And I should probably say that differently. This is her seller's buyer. And we are willing to do whatever it takes to get this property under contract. Message delivered, and she let me know that she would be collecting offers and speak to the seller the following day. We would have an answer at the latest on the morning of the second day, which is totally reasonable and makes sense. But to ensure that my message was completely received, I also had my lender reach out and communicate the strength of the buyer and communicate the strength of the terms. I wanted to ensure there was 0% chance that there was any doubt that this particular buyer was their buyer. They had the means, that my client was ready, willing, and able to do whatever it takes to buy this home because they love it. But on the day that we were supposed to have heard what the answer is, we got no answer. It was crickets. And I know that's no bueno So, of course, I did the things that must be done in order to communicate with the listing agent. And so I called straight to voicemail, and I texted, not returned, and I emailed. I doubt it was even read. But the highly communicative, very enthusiastic agent who was super excited to do a deal went silent, went dark. And I know that's not a good sign. So I continued to be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease in order to figure out what's actually happening now. But I had a strong suspicion that we weren't getting the contract. And even more disturbing, now I had reasonable doubt to think that this particular agent could be, and I want to say could be because I don't have definitive proof yet, but I do know that it's possible that my contract was never presented. I do know that it's possible that this agent could have cherry picked her own client to buy the house in order to double dip on commissions. And to be clear, I'm not accusing anybody of anything at this point. That truth will be revealed when the property closes. But I can also guarantee you, if this home closes under where we presented a contract, you can bet your sweet Bippy that I will be reaching out to those sellers and letting them know. And while at first that seemed like a distant and remote possibility, but possible in the realm of all things that are possible, the more the day dragged on with no communication, the more likely I thought that possibility could be a reality. But I was told we'd have an answer in the morning, and I didn't get a response until very late night. And it wasn't through a phone call, it wasn't through a text, it was through an email. Now, here's a pro tip if you're a listing agent to remove the possibility that anyone can ever think these things is that when you tell another agent that their contract was not accepted, show proof of receipt from the seller. Have them initial the contract that was presented, because that will remove any doubt or any thought of impropriety. But that's not what happened. That's what I do. Because real estate is a reputation business. And if you don't have a good reputation, you are out of business. And as of right now, I don't trust this new agent. I think it's possible that they're trying to double dip and not do what's right for their client. They're doing what's right for themselves. And I can tell you that's not right. Long term, that is a loser. Short term, you might get a little quick payoff, but I can promise you, you will have no sustainability in this business. Because if I was her, if I was the listing agent on this property and I received multiple contracts, I would then counter everyone to solicit the highest and best terms. And when I spoke with this agent, I made it very clear that I understood that they were going to get multiple offers. And she agreed that she would come back to me with a counter if that was the case. But we never got a counter. And now that home is under contract with another buyer. And so, despite all of the bad things that are happening or could happen potentially in the future due to recession and unemployment and all of the potential financial market crash risks that exist, this home in Boca had 30 contracts. And the contract that I presented was significantly higher than what they were asking for, which is a long way of getting to. If you're thinking about buying a home in my market, it's only getting worse. Now, I hope you found this content valuable, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, follow me on Twitter where I can respond to your comments and never be censored. If you're even thinking about buying or selling, please reach out because we would love to help. And check out my next video because I suspect you will love it a lot. And until next time, peace!